Hello class. Today's lesson is Leviticus. We're going to talk about sacrifice. Last time we talked about the tabernacle, and that's where Israel people can, the priest can go into the tabernacle, and the priest can also offer sacrifice to God. And we also talked about the sacrifice a little bit before. In the old time, what do priests sacrifice? Here on the right-hand side, you can see a picture. These are what are usually offered on the altar to sacrifice. We see a bull on the left corner, and we see the lamb on the bottom left, and we also see a bird, and we see rice, a bowl of rice on the bottom middle, and then we also see a sack of grain. And in the middle, that's the altar, and there's a fire. And when you sacrifice, you burn, okay? So those, in the old time, God told Israel people that they need to have their priest to offer those sacrifices on the altar. Why? Because we all sin, and then we need somebody to pay for our sin. And that's why in the old time, they used bull or lamb as a sacrifice to die for our sin. But ultimately, they are symbols, or they are the type of Jesus Christ, who would actually ultimately would pay for our sin by dying on the cross. So Jesus ultimately, he's the lamb, he's the sacrifice for us. He died in our place so that we don't need to die. So in Leviticus, they were talking about those rules for sacrifices. And there are 5 types of offerings we're going to learn today. The first type is called a burnt offering. A burnt offering is you burn everything, the whole bull, or if it's a lamb, the whole lamb. It's a symbol of, when we, in the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul talked about that we as Christians, we should offer ourselves as a burnt offering, where we offer our whole self, our whole body. So when we do things with our hands, we do things to glorify God. When we speak with our mouth, we speak for the glory of God. So it means like our whole body, our whole self, our heart, our mind, they're all dedicated to God. We don't sing with our hands, and we don't sing with our minds either. We want to dedicate our whole self to God. So that's what burnt offering means. And then there's the second type of offering is called grain offering. Okay, so it can be rice, it can be flour, like showing on the picture. And when we offer grain offering, in the old time, people farm, right? During the harvest time, we have fruits, we have grain, we have flour, wheat, rice, and the first fruits belong to God. So in Israel, ancient Israel, they offer grain offering. They mix flour with oil, and also they offer with the frankincense, which is kind of like a perfume. It has very good smell, and they offer it to God. This is a symbol of today when we do our work. We want to work hard, and we want to do things very well, and we give our best work to God, to honor God. It's also that we usually talk about, we give our first fruits, so which means God should be the first. He should always be our first priority. So we always offer the first fruit to God. Also, it's also a symbol of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is the first fruit. He's the first one to actually resurrect. And so he's God's first son. He resurrects, and we as Christ's followers, eventually we will resurrect too. along with Christ to rule in the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of God. So that's grain offering. And thirdly, there's peace offering. And the peace offering is in the burnt offering, you offer everything. You offer all parts of the bull, all parts of the lamb. There's nothing that you don't burn. But in peace offering, we offer the fat. We burn the fat. The priest would burn the fat of the animal, but for the meat, they can eat. And so it's more for a dining time, a celebration time. It symbolizes fellowship with God. Like in church, when we have in-person church, remember before the pandemic, after we worship, we will have lunch together. It's a fellowship. When we eat lunch together, we can talk with our friends and we can eat and, talk and even play after lunch with your friends. So that's a fellowship. We hang out together as Christians, as brothers and sisters. And in the same way, we also have fellowship with God. So in the priests would burn the fat, but then they will eat the meat. It symbolizes they are having a fellowship with God. They're eating with God. They're having a good time with God, and they communicate with God. That's peace offering. And we can have this peace with God, that we can actually freely talk to God, pray to God, because Jesus was a sin offering for us. We're all sinners. The sinners cannot meet God, but because today we can pray to God, we can talk to God, because Jesus already died for us in our place. So that's why we can have peace, because otherwise there's no peace. Otherwise there's judgment. We will be judged because of our sins. But because of Jesus' sin offerings, he died for us as a sacrifice, we have peace. So there's this peace offering, that we have peace with God. We can fellowship with God. We can talk to God. So here comes the fourth offering, is the sin offering. And we all sin. So in the old time, when Adam sinned, God gave Adam the skin of the animal as their skirt. So somebody died in Adam's place, which is a lamb. But lamb actually cannot really pay for our sin. Eventually, Jesus came and died on the cross for us to pay for our sin. So sin offering is a symbol of Jesus Christ eventually dying in our place. And then lastly, there's a guilt offering. It's very similar to sin offering, because we all sin, we all make mistakes, we all sin against God and sin against people. So there's this guilt offering. The difference is the guilt offering, sometimes it's because we sin against other people. And in the guilt offering, not only you need to sacrifice a bull or a lamb or a bird, but you also need to pay to somebody you hurt. So if somebody has a monetary loss because of you, something you did wrong, you need to compensate them with 20% more. So if it's $100 and you need to pay $120 to make up for the damage that you make. So that's the guilt offering, and that's the difference between guilt offering and sin offering, is in that you need to pay for what you did wrong by adding 20% more as kind of like a compensation or penalty. So here are the 5 offerings. And again, we have burnt offering, which means you burn everything. You dedicate your whole self to God. And there's grain offering, which means you dedicated your work, the best part of your work, the first fruit of your work. And there's peace offering, and where you have fellowship with God, we can have peace with God because Jesus died for us. And then there's sin offering, which symbolizes Jesus paid for our sin. And then there's guilt offering, which is very similar to sin offering, but you also need to compensate people for what the damage that you caused them. And just like when you make mistakes and you hurt somebody, you need to, of course, you need to confess your sin by praying to God and confess your sin, but also you need to say sorry to the friend that you hurt, right? So that's today's lesson. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.